So first of all, Shavua Tov, thank you all for coming. And we want to dedicate the shiur for the refuah, the health, for Adina Chaya Bat Aviva. And Bezrat Hashem, any mitzvah that will come out of tonight will go for her merit. And along with her, anyone who needs refuah in Am Yisrael should have a speedy recovery. And we want to give a very special thanks to Mr. and Mrs. Horazadeh, along with all the rest of the sponsors that helped to get this night up and running. Many people helped with their time, with their efforts, with their money, even running up and down with a microphone. So we want to thank everybody who had a part in it. Baruch Hashem, you'll have a very big zchut in such a special night. So tonight I want to talk to you about the most important topic of our generation. And that's about the coming of Mashiach. And many people say, we've been hearing about it for thousands of years. We already heard about it. Move on. Worse than that, I meet thousands of people on a daily basis, and unfortunately, very sad, I hear people saying, it's not even true. It's not such a thing. It's an invention to make people have hope. And Hashem Erachem, what type of things I hear about the coming of Mashiach. So B'ezrat Hashem tonight I want to talk about, first of all, how close it is. In the last 2 years I made a very, very long research about the coming of Mashiach, only because I started running into people who kept telling me, it's never coming. It's coming in 2,000 years, in 200 years. And all sorts of answers like that I had to find enough places in the Torah that shows that the Geulah has to come right now. And Baruch Hashem, after 2 years of hard research, I found hundreds, not 2, not 20, hundreds of sources in the Torah, in the Tanakh, in the Gemara, in the Zohar, in Kabbalah, books of Kabbalah, hundreds of sources that prove and show exactly when Mashiach is coming, how it's coming, every detail that we need to know. So B'ezrat Hashem tonight, I can't go through the entire list. That will take us 7 days. I'm going to just talk about a little bit of them. But once we understand and we see, according to our sources, that we know that the redemption, the Geulah is coming, is what do we have to do? How do I get ready for the coming of Mashiach? Now a lot of people already in the back of their mind, they're like, we heard about it already. What is he going to tell us tonight? The reality is that tonight you have the opportunity to go out of this room and to understand and to believe and to know that Mashiach can come tomorrow. And people don't even know what it means that Mashiach is coming. They think it's some imaginary thing. The reality is when Mashiach is going to come, the world is going to come to a complete end of a cycle. After we fix the world, everything is going to be perfect. No diseases, no wars, no death, no envy, no nothing. We just sit in Eretz Yisrael, we learn Torah, and much, much more than that. Now the thing is that many people tell me, we've been hearing about it for 2,000 years. Why should it come now? So first of all, we've not been hearing about it for 2,000 years. We've been hearing about it for 5,776 years. Because the second the world was created, the Kadosh Baruch Hu was already talking about Mashiach. The book of Bereshit starts, Bereshit bara Elokim et shamayim et haaretz. First Hashem created the heaven and the earth. And the next verse, it says, Va'aretz hayta tohu vavohu, v'choshech al pnei tehom, v'ruach Elokim merachefet al pnei hamayim. The Midrash explains that when it's talking about that the land was dark and a whole mess, it's talking about the 4 exiles that we had. The exile of Greece, the exile of Persia, the exile of Babylonian, Babel, and the exile of Edom. It's talking about the 4 exiles. And when it's talking about V'ruach Elokim merachefet al pnei hamayim, the Spirit of God is hovering over the water, the Midrash says, Zeh rucho shel Mashiach. This is the Spirit of the Mashiach. So right when the world was created, we already knew that the world was created for the coming of Mashiach. We know based on the teachings of Kabbalah that before the world was created, two souls were created of the two redeemers, Moshe Rabbeinu and Melech HaMashiach. Then the soul of Adam HaRishon was created, and we are all part of Adam HaRishon. Now, of course, everybody says, okay, so you convinced me that we've been hearing about it for so long. Why now? Why now? He didn't come for so long. Why should he come now? What's different now than 500 years ago or 200 years from now? So the reality is that we know that Mashiach can come in two dates. And this is explained in the Gemara in the Talmud, based on a pasuk from the book of Yeshaya, that we know that the Geulah can come in two dates. The first date is called Be'ita, in its time. Be'ita in Hebrew is a kick, so this is with a taf. This is in its time. And the other option is V'achishena, I will bring it faster. These are the two dates that we know that the Geulah can come. The same way that a woman in this world gets pregnant, she goes to the doctor after all the mazel tovs, and the doctor calculates, and it says, okay, your due date is on that date. Calculates according to the weeks. 99.9% of the women in the world do not deliver on the due date. Some of them deliver a week before, some deliver 2 weeks before, Shem Erachem, sometimes 2 months before. Baruch Hashem, I have 6 kids. My wife is very precise that every time she's 2 weeks late. And every time the doctor's like, we gotta induce, we gotta operate. And every time I tell the doctor, don't worry, the one before came out. This one will come out too. Don't worry, they all come out. I never saw a woman that's walking 5 years pregnant. Don't worry, he's coming out. Don't need to induce him. So the same way that a pregnant woman gets a due date, also the coming of Mashiach got a due date. And we know that date. This is called Be'ita, in its time. The other option, V'achishena, it's going to come faster. What does it mean it's going to come faster? It means that we, as the Jews, as a nation, can get our act together, as they say, and we bring the Geulah much faster. Now the first one in the Torah that knew when Mashiach is coming is Noach. You have to understand that in the Torah, it's talking about numerous places about the coming of the Geulah. Some of them it's talking very, very clear, and some of them it's talking in a very coded way. But the first one that knew about the coming of Mashiach was Noach. And it says very clearly that when Noach, the flood stopped, the ark parked, Noach opened the window, let the pigeon out, came back. The second time it came back, it says that it had a leaf of an olive tree, and Noach knew that the flood stopped. And the pasuk says, Le'et erev, at the time of evening, when the pigeon and the dove came back, and it gives the whole pasuk. The teachings of Kabbalah explain to us that the coming of Mashiach has to happen in what's called Le'et erev. We're going to talk about it a few more times. Le'et erev means when the sun starts coming down. But the word Le'et erev has the numerical value, or gematria, of 772. 772, it's the year Tafshin Ein Bet, 2012. This is the first time that it's mentioned in the Torah when the Geulah is coming. People think that the first exile was Egypt. The first exile was the flood. That was the first time the world was in exile. The second one that already knew about the coming of the Geulah was Yitzchak. It was Yaakov Avinu. It says in Parashat Vayechi that right before he died, he called all the tribes and he wanted to rebuke them. And he told them, come, gather around me, and I'm going to reveal to you the day that Mashiach is coming. Bo va'agale lachem et haketz. The Gemara says that the second that they got next to him, miyad nistalka da'ato. He forgot. The Shekhinah was removed from him. The reality is it's a tzaddik and a prophet like Yaakov Avinu, the Shekhinah doesn't get removed from him. He just made a very quick calculation. He said, what are my options? If I'm going to tell them now when the Mashiach is coming, I have 2 options. The first option is that they fall right away into despair. What? We have to wait 4,000 years? And right away they will fall into despair. And what good would that do? The second option was that he was like, okay, if I tell them that the Geulah is coming in 4,000 years, they'll be like, oh, so let's go and party, and we'll do Tshuva in 3,999 years. Why should we work hard the whole time? So I made a quick calculation that it's not worth it to tell when the time of the Geulah is coming. The Gemara explains that Miyad Nistalka Da'ato, that the Shekhinah was removed from him. But throughout the Torah, we see many, many places how it's pointing exactly at the time when the redemption is coming. In many different places, it's all pointing to the same place, Tafshin Ayin Bet. Constantly, it's repeating this date, Tafshin Ayin Bet, 2011, 2012. Now, the main place where I found most of the sources about the coming of the Geulah is the Zohar. And the Zohar is full of prophecies. And people think that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is just talking about the mysticism of the Torah, but in the Zohar are hundreds of prophecies. Amazingly, regardless to the Geulah, there are two prophecies that are just unbelievably amazing. In the book of Balak, page 212, in the Zohar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that before the coming of Mashiach, at the end of the month of Elul, he's giving a date, 3 buildings, he actually says 3 towers, in the land of Romi, in one of the biggest cities, will crumble down and crush. We know from many different prophets and many different sources that the land of Romi is America. Romi is America. In the 23rd day of Elul, Kaf Gimel Elul, 9/11 happened, and 3 towers fell down in one of the biggest cities of the land of Romi. And a lot of people say, no, only 2 fell. No, look in history, building number 7 that was attached to the towers also fell down. That's a 40-story building. That's a tower. And sure enough, exactly how the Zohar says, that's what happened. In the same Zohar, it's talking about that on the same day, Heichal HaOz, the chamber of might, will get damaged. Sure enough, the Pentagon got damaged. He continues talking about that a king from the east will go out to a war in the west. A king from the west will go out to a war in the east. George Bush took the entire army to the east. It's giving an exact description how fire is going to come out of caves. The Taliban were sitting in caves. The entire story is described in the Zohar. Remember, Book of Balak, page 212. Just go and look at it. There's another prophecy in the book of Va'era, page 32, where it's talking about that right before the coming of Mashiach, the sons of Ishmael, the Muslims, are going to create havoc around the world. They're going to come and take over all the countries of the world, and they're going to create terror and kill people and and oppose their law. It's giving an exact description of what's going on in the last couple of years, how the Muslims are taking over all the countries of the world, trying to oppose their laws, creating havoc and terror. And the Zohar goes on, and there's literally hundreds of prophecies about the coming of the Geulah. Now, when the Zohar is referring to the time when Mashiach is coming, it's talking about the time that is called Be'ita, in its time. I mean, we always had the problem of really joining together as a nation, doing a lot of mitzvot, doing what we need to do, doing Shuvah, and bringing the Geulah much, much faster. But obviously that didn't happen yet. Now, the due date we already passed. According to all the Mekubalim, we already passed the due date a long time ago. So when the Zohar is talking about the coming of the redemption, it's talking about Be'ita in its time, and it's giving in 2 different places an exact date when the Geulah is coming. In one is in the book of Et Hanan. This is all the Zohar. And it's talking about that the Geulah, Mashiach, can come when the Kadosh Baruch Hu is ready to pray Mincha of Erev Shabbat. That's what he says. And it's talking about Mincha Gdolah. We know that we have Mincha Gdolah. This is right 6.5 hours after Zricha, a very early Mincha. And there's Mincha Ktana, which is a little bit later. Now we have to calculate, what does it mean that the Kadosh Baruch Hu can pray Mincha Gdolah of Erev Shabbat? So we know that the world was created for 7,000 years. The Navi, the prophet says, Shit, Shnei Avi Alma, V'chad Charuv. The world was created for 6,000 years, and 1,000 years is a destruction. Now we also know there's a pasuk in the book of Tehillim, chapter 84, verse 4, that it says, Ke'elef shanim be'enecha keyom etmol. 1,000 years of ours is one day of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So now we have to make a quick calculation. We have 7,000 years. It means 7 days of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. 6 days corresponds to the 6 days of creation, corresponding to the first 6,000 years of creation of the world. And the last day, the 7th day, corresponds to Shabbat. We know that the time of the Geulah is called Yom Shekulo Tov, a day that is all Shabbat. Now let's calculate when's Mincha or Erev Shabbat. Very simple. So if we know that one day of the Kadosh Baruch Hu is 1,000 of ours, so we start from Sunday till Thursday. That's 5 days, 5,000 years. Put 5,000 aside. Now we know that the day is counted from the sundown. Today, Monday already started, half an hour ago. So when does the Friday in our calendar start? Thursday evening. From sundown to sunrise, 12 hours. From Shkia to Zricha. Mincha Gdolah is 6.5 hours from Zricha. So it's 18.5 hours into the day. All I need to do is a very simple calculation. You take 1,000. 1,000 corresponds to 1,000 years of ours. Divide that in 24, corresponding to the 24 hours a day. Times that 18.5 hours from sundown to sunrise, plus 6.5 hours. The calculation is very easy. Don't pull out your calculators. 1,000 divided 24 times 18.5, 770. With a little change, .84444. But we're not counting right now the dot. Take the 5,000 years, add the first 770. 5,770. Taf Shin Ayin. 2010. That's when the Kadosh Baruch Hu can put on his Shabbat suit and start praying Mincha Gdolah. This is the beginning of Be'ita. This is the time, what's called Leidat Mashiach, the birth of Mashiach. We're already past that, of course. The Zohar says in Parashat Vayikra and Parashat Toldot that when is the Geulah going to come and how it's going to come. The Zohar explaining that before Mashiach comes has to have 72 years of a process that is called Chevlei Mashiach. Labor, like a woman that goes into labor, she would wish for it to be 2 minutes, but it's usually a day, sometimes 2. And that's suffering. The Zohar compares that the time of the exile is compared to the birth, to the pregnancy. Then has to come the labor, then comes the actual birth. So the Zohar says, first you're going to have 72 years of Chevlei Mashiach, of suffering. Then we're going to have the birth, and then we're ready for the coming of Mashiach. And the Zohar gives us the exact time when Chevlei Mashiach is going to start. Chevlei Mashiach is the labor, the suffering. And the Zohar says it in a very unrevealed way. It says when the Shekhinah is going to put its head between the knees, between the Sphira of Netzach and Hod, that's when Chevlei Mashiach is going to come. Now we know that everything ascends from the world above through the 10 Sphirot. The highest Sphira is called Keter. Some people calculate it from the Sphira of Chokhmah. It doesn't really matter. Count 7 down, because we have to come between. The Shekhinah is the feminine part of the godly revelation. A person that is in pain puts his head between their knees and they start crying. So now we have to find out what is the time between the Netzach and the Hod. If you calculate the Sphirot from above, between Netzach and Hod is 7. Right? You following? So all we need to do now is calculate what is the 700. And it's talking about that's going to happen in the 6th millennium. And I'm zooming through the details because it's not so important right now. But we know that in the 6th millennium, in the 700, that's when Chevlei Mashiach is going to start. What does that mean? 5,700. Taf Shin. The year of Taf Shin. That's 1939. That's when the Holocaust started. This is according to the Zohar when Chevlei Mashiach, the suffering, is going to start. And sure enough, we saw with our own eyes that the Holocaust started and the suffering of our nation started. Now take from that 72 years, because the Zohar says we're going to have 72 years of Chevlei Mashiach. If you calculate from 1939, that's 2011. But maybe he was talking about 1945, from the end. That's 2017. So I have a buffer. Now comes on that many other different prophets, and they start pinpointing the exact same times. The first one that did that was the Chafetz Chaim. There's a Zohar in Parashat Vayera that is talking about 3 wars. Before the coming of Mashiach, is going to have to be 3 wars. The Zohar calls it Gog Magog. It's talking about that the first 2 wars are not going to be close to Yerushalayim. The 3rd war is going to be right next to Yerushalayim. When World War I started, the Chafetz Chaim said at the time, based on that Zohar, this is Gog Magog. The first Gog Magog just started. And he got happy because he says Mashiach is coming. He gave a prophecy at the time. It was brought down in the book Lev Eliyahu. It was brought down also by his famous Talmid, Rabbi Wasserman, who was murdered in the Holocaust. And he said that the Chafetz Chaim at that time said, 25 years from now will be the second Gog Magog. And the second Gog Magog is going to be 10 times worse than the first one. Sure enough, look exactly the dates. 25 years between First World War and Second World War. And sure enough, we see that the Second World War was much, much worse. Then he said the exact same thing. 72 years after that will come the third Gog Magog. Sure enough, it's exactly like the prophecy. Now, I just want to go through a few more prophecies that pins everything to the same place. The Gaon from Vilna, almost 300 years ago, said that when you see that the Russians are crossing the sea strait of the Bosporov, put your Shabbos clothes on. That's what the Gaon from Vilna said about 300 years ago. In October 2015, the entire Russian Navy crossed the sea strait of the Bosporov with nuclear submarines, the biggest nuclear submarine in the world, the Dmitry, carries enough nuclear power to destroy the world 3 times. With the aircraft carriers, the entire Navy crossed the Bosporov. So we have to already put our Shabbos clothes on. After that came 3 tzaddikim. 3 tzaddikim in different places said the exact same prophecy. The Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Israel from Ruzhin, and the Holy Jew from Sicha said the exact same prophecy. Amazingly, there's another very interesting prophecy by the prophet called Zerubbabel ben Shaltiel. He's not such a known prophet. He has a book, the Sefer Zerubbabel. He's the great-grandson of the king of Yehoiachin, who is a direct descendant of David HaMelech. And he said that before the coming of Mashiach, we're going to have possession of the city of Yerushalayim for 40 years, after we didn't hold it for thousands of years. After the 40 years, we're going to have a period of 5 years that is called Mashiach ben Yosef, and then Mashiach ben David can come. When did we start having possession over Yerushalayim? 1967. After 2,000 years that we weren't allowed to get close to it even. Take 1967 and add 40 years, 2007. Add 5 years of Mashiach ben Yosef, 2012. Tafshin Ayin Bet. It all funnels down to a buffer zone of a couple years. Amazingly, we see in so many different places. You know, when they asked the Arizal, the holy, the Ari HaKadosh, they asked him, when is the Geula coming? Now the Arizal wasn't a regular person that you had to ask him, hey, how are you? And he answers you, Baruch Hashem. The Ari HaKadosh talked only in Psukim. So they asked him, when is Mashiach coming? He told them, Vayerev v'yeboker yom hashishi. That was his answer. This was his answer. And the word hashishi, again, the gematria of Tafshin Ayin Bet, all falls down to the same date. When they asked the Arizal, he says, En ben David ba ele b'motzei Shevit. Comes on this, the Chafetz Chaim, and he says, right after the second Gog Magog, we're going to count 10 Shmitot, 10 sabbatical years. And at the end of the 10th sabbatical year, that's when Mashiach can come. That was right now, half a year ago, like 8 months ago. Tafshin Ayin Hey, we finished 10 sabbatical years. And the list goes on and on and on with numerous amounts of prophecies. And they're all pointing down around the year of Tafshin Ayin, Tafshin Ayin Bet, all these years. So we know we're in a buffer between 2011 to 2017 that if the Geula is coming what's called Be'ita in its time, that is when it's happening. Now we always had the option of doing V'achishena, bringing it faster, but we obviously didn't do it. Now there are 2 prophets that they explained how the Geula can come. The first one is in the book of Daniel, and he says, if the generation merited, Im Zachu, Mashiach is going to come al Ananei Shmaya, on clouds of glory. The Ben Ish Chai says, this is Kepshuto, meaning it's going to be clouds, and we're going to be sitting on clouds and going to Eretz Israel. Sounds like a fairy tale. Comes the prophet of Zechariah and he says, Im lo zachu, if the generation is not merited, ani v'rochev al chamor, poor and riding on a donkey. Now Mashiach is not going to be riding on a donkey, and he's not going to be poor. It's a parable to explain to us that if we don't have a merit, meaning that the nation of Israel is not keeping Torah and mitzvot, and they're not doing everything that Torah tells us to do, then Mashiach is going to have to come and break us. What does it mean, ani v'rochev al chamor? Ani, it's poor, means that we're going to be suffering from spiritual poverty, which you see that unfortunately many Jews in the world, they're suffering from spiritual poverty. They don't know even that they're Jews. They don't even care if they're Jews. They don't even care to do a mitzvah. And Mashiach is going to have to ride rochev al chamor. Chamor is a donkey in Hebrew, but it comes from the word chomriyut, physicality. Meaning that we are going to be slaves to physicality. And we're all slaves to physicality. We're all slaves to the physical world. We're all running after more money, a nicer car, a bigger phone, everything, all day long. We're just running after physicality. Mashiach is going to have to ride on it, to break the physical slavery. And the reality is that each and every one of you is 100%, not 90%, 100% slave to the physical world. The new phone comes out, you jump, another 2 inches. Your car lease ends, before it ends already, you're already ordering the new one. And it has to be a nicer one, because all my neighbors have a nice one. And all we do is running after physicality. Mashiach is going to come to break it. Or, if we have the merit, we break it ourselves. But the reality is that we're the reality. Look at how the world is, we're not doing it. So Mashiach is now coming and breaking our physicality. It started in 2007 when the market crashed. Everybody suffered from that. Anyone who was in real estate suffered unbelievable loss. Then later on came some shmegeg, Mr. Madoff, took off with the rest of the money. And now we see that everybody is being bent and broke. Everybody. This is with the sign that Mashiach is coming and starting to break this physicality. It says in 3 places, in Masechet Sotah, in the book of Yirmiyah, in the book of Yechezkel, that before Mashiach is going to come, money is going to lose value. We're going to start losing all the money. When Mashiach is going to come, there's not going to be such a thing as money. Now we're running after it. Once Mashiach is going to come, that's it. There's no more money. No credit cards, no banks, no nothing. What's going to stand is only Torah and mitzvot. Now whoever has a lot of money is considered rich. Tomorrow Mashiach is coming, whoever has money, the money, you can pay and make a wallpaper over that. There's not going to be such thing as banks. The only rich person will be whoever has Torah and mitzvot. And we see in front of our eyes how it's slowly, the physicality is breaking. Look now, 2-3 weeks ago, the British pulled out from financial union. Every day we see something is happening that is another financial institute is crushing. Now when the Zohar was talking about 3 wars, 2 already we saw with our own eyes. In many different places when the Zohar is talking about Gog and Magog, it's talking about also in the Gemara, we picture a war with nuclear bombs and countries being exploded and wars. And Gog and Magog started in 2013, by the way. If you didn't even notice that, just open the news and you'll see that the entire world is at war. That's what it's described, that all the nations are going to fight against each other. You just see it with your eyes. You don't have to be a genius for that. When the Zohar was talking about Gog and Magog, the Zohar was calling it Milchemet Gigim. Milchemet Gigim, it means war of thoughts. Everything starts in the spiritual world, then it manifests down into the physical world. When the Zohar was talking about the war of thoughts, it said that at the time of the Gog and Magog, we are going to be controlled by our thoughts. Sure enough, you see exactly that in this generation, everybody is controlled by thoughts. I call it the war of screens. Everybody's glued to a screen. The screen beeps, you jump. You don't go anywhere without the screen. To the toilet you go with the screen. You don't tell it to anyone, but you check your emails. And you're a slave to that screen. Whatever the screen says, you go after the screen. If it beeps, if you didn't answer within 3.5 seconds, something's wrong with you. We are slaves to the screens, and our thoughts are controlled through the screens. Whether it's your phone, whether it's your tablet, whether it's your computer, doesn't matter what it is. Maybe 5% of the day that you're using it is valuable and it's good. The rest of the 90% is junk. And of course, a lot of people tell me, oh no, whoa, I go to YouTube, I watch Torah classes, I watch your Torah classes. Yeah, you watch 10 minutes of my class, and then on the side there's all the suggested one. Ooh, that one looks funny. Let me just check that one. It's a good title. So you see 10 minutes of Torah and 5 hours of junk. And then you're like, wow, I just burned 3 hours of my day on nonsense. And then you go to the next screen, you go into Facebook. I just want to share with the world one thing. And then another 5 hours of junk. And all this junk goes into the back of our mind, and we are slaves to it. We are slaves to the physicality and the screens, and this is the war that the Zohar was talking about. Nobody's free. Fraction of people in the world are free. A couple of days ago, somebody told me, give me your number, I want to call you. So I told him, call my secretary. No, give me your cell phone. I said, I don't have a cell phone. What do you mean you don't have a cell phone? I said, I don't have a cell phone. Why do I need a cell phone? Everybody has cell phones. I said, okay, so I'm the first one that doesn't. For dozens of years, people were walking around the world managing to do business without a cell phone. What's the difference now? Send me an email, I'll check it when I get home. Do I have to answer it on demand? Why should I have some radioactive box in my tuchus? Everywhere that I go, it's warming me up. I mean, just think how ridiculous it is. And we are all slaves to it. And we just think it's a nice, funny, nice, cute box. It's not. There's a very strong impurity in this box. That's why the Gdolim of our generation are saying, do not have that. They know what they're saying. So unfortunately, we are in the war of Gog and Magog. We are controlled. Now we have a problem, because everything starts in the spiritual level and then it manifests down into the physical level. Right now, we're in between. If Chas v'Shalom, this war is going to manifest into the physical level, we have a problem. You know, when the Tanaim in the Gemara were talking about it, it's in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 98. They were talking about the coming of Mashiach. One of the Tanaim says, Yatei velo achmine. I don't want to be there. I don't want to see how it looks. An amazing hint here, when it's talking about, and there's not one letter in the Gemara that is by chance. Everything is calculated on the letter. When the Gemara says, Yatei velo yachmine, I don't want to be there when it happens, it already gives us the hint of how it's going to happen and who's the name. Now the thing is that we know that every generation there's a Haman. 2,000 years ago, there was one Haman in Persia, wanted to kill us all. This time we beat him. We did Tshuva. There was a miracle. But every generation there's a Haman. And this Haman comes to destroy us. Every generation. 75 years ago, there was a Haman in Germany. Every generation there's one somewhere around the world prepared to get the green light, and he goes with it. And he's going to come and destroy us. Every generation. Sometimes we're lucky we do tshuva, sometimes we don't. And we see it in front of our eyes. Aman is a descendant of Amalek. Amalek is a nation, but Amalek is also a klipa. A klipa is a spiritual impurity that is caused by my negative act, and it comes like a virus to attack me. When the Jews left Mitzrayim, it says that right away Amalek came to attack them. And how did it attack them? It came in the back. It came to cool them down. This klipa, what it does, it cools you down. The numerical value of the word Amalek is the numerical value of the word Safek, doubt. You come to a lecture like this, you get all hyped up, you get all excited, and in your mind, tomorrow I'm davening nets, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and you're getting all excited. You go out of the door, all the air comes out. Amalek comes, shh, relax. Don't listen to him. Look at him, how crazy he looks. Like a clown with a long beard. Don't listen to him, relax. It's okay, you are a good Jew. You go to a Shabbat, you go to a drasha, to a shiur, you get all hyped up. Relax. This is Amalek. Amalek comes and grabs us by our neck, like a dog. You know why the neck? Because in our head we have this balloon here, this big ball, and our brain is here, our intellect, what is called in the terminology of Kabbalah, mochin, what we understand. And then we have a big weird body, and inside we have our attributes, what's called midot. And then we have like this little straw, this little stick that's connecting one to the other. So what you understand here is very good. Comes Amalek and he squeezes your neck, so it's not going to come down. So you understand something in your mind, but it doesn't come into your heart, into actions. You understand you're not allowed to cheat or steal or lie. But when it comes to opportunity, everybody lies. You understand in your mind what the Torah tells you, but when it comes to action, everybody steals. You see it even in the physical world. Look at a smoker. Come to any smoker in the world. You tell him, do you know that smoking is bad for you? Yeah, I know. Do you know you chas v'shalom can get cancer? Yeah, I know. So why do you smoke? So what stays here, the klippah doesn't let it go down to the heart, to action. This is the klippah of Amalek, and the manifestation of it is this Haman. In every generation, the Haman can be spiritual and the Haman can be physical. There's always two. Right now we have a Haman in Persia, in Iran. He's just waiting for the order to press the button. That's it. He's crazy enough. And when I told you before that the Gemara says, Yatei velo achmine, you already gave the hint. Who's the man? Take the word Yatei velo achmine. Move the aleph from the second word, chaminei. Very simple. Take the first word. Yate is Yud Yud Taf Hey. How do they call them in Iran? Ayatulot. Yate Achminei Chaminei. This is the Haman of the generation. Very simple. He has a few partners in Korea, in China, Putin. If chas v'shalom, the war is going to manifest into the world, Yate velo Achminei. I don't want to see it. I do not want to see it. The problem is that most people do not understand the urgency. They do not understand that Mashiach can come tomorrow, and then what? Then what? Where am I holding? What am I coming? What I have with me? Mashiach is going to come. Whatever is going to stand for me is only my Torah and mitzvot. Very simple. Nothing else. And the reality is that the urgency is so strong, and everybody's numb. This Haman, this Amalek, it numbs everybody. I can come now and sit here for 7 hours and give you more sources and more sources and more sources. You'll get all excited. You go out of the door. When I finish college in 17 years, I'll start keeping Shabbat. I get all these weird answers. The reality is that when the Jews were slaves in Mitzrayim, there's a big question. How could it be that the Jews were not able to run out of Mitzrayim? That's the Midrash says. Not one slave was able to leave Mitzrayim. How? They didn't have fences, they didn't have cameras, they didn't have all this technology we have. It says, the Zohar explains that Paro was a mechashef, was a sorcerer. He had a lot of powers of impurity. He was able to control klipot, these idols. And they have an idol that it looked like a dog. The Zohar calls it Kelev. Kelev is a dog. And every time a Jew would run away, then the guard dog would be like, hey, he's running, get him. That's why when the Jews left Mitzrayim, the Torah says, V'lo yicharatz kelev leshono, and the dogs didn't bark. They didn't have poodles in Mitzrayim. They didn't have Dobermans to bark. Who are these dogs? That the dogs were quiet. These were these idols. And the Zohar explains that when a slave would come out to the border, the klippah would approach him and tell him, where are you going? Where are you going? Go back. Go back to your family. Go back to your job. Even though it's a stinky job, but go back to your job. Back to your comfort zone. Where you're comfortable. Why go now to the desert, to a place you don't even know where it is? Why? Go back to your comfort zone. Shlomo Melech says, Ma she'aya hu sheyeh. What was will be. En chadash tachal hashemesh. Nothing is new. Everything repeats itself. We are exactly at the time like our ancestors were 3,300 years ago. You know what it says about the exile of Mitzrayim? That they worked hard, avodah kasha, b'chomer ulvenim. Exactly what we do, avodah kasha, hard work. You know what's hard work? Serving God. It's very hard to wake up in the morning to go to a minyan. Very hard for me right now to sign a check for charity. Very hard for me to do now a mitzvah. Not to lie, not to cheat, not to look in the wrong direction. Avodah kasha. Very hard to serve Hashem. It's not easy to serve Hashem. Everybody's complaining. Oh. And the chomer v'venim, chomer is materialism. Like I said, we're slaves to materialism. Whether you agree with it or not, don't look at me like, no, I'm not the one. He means them. We're all slaves. Levenim is bricks. Now people think that in Mitzrayim, the Jews carried bricks and built pyramids. We didn't build the pyramids. It's a myth. The Gemara explains, Rabbi Alon built Pitom and Ramses, the two different cities. And everything that we built sunk into the ground. Levenim is bricks. When you're carrying bricks, it's a burden. Our life is a burden right now. Everybody has a burden. The Kadosh Baruch Hu made sure that each and every one of us has a burden in his life that he's carrying like bricks. One lost his money. The other one is dealing with a disease. The other one can't get married. The other one can't have children. Each one, Hashem Yerachem, is dealing with something. We're all carrying a burden, whether we agree with it or not. And you know what we do? We point fingers everywhere. It's his fault, it's his fault, it's Shara's fault. No, it has nothing to do with faults. You have a bad relationship? It's her fault, she's driving me crazy. All sorts of answers. We're very good at pointing fingers. No, this is the exile. Hard work, it's hard to serve Hashem, and it's even more that we all have a burden. I bet you nobody can raise their hand here in this room and says, my life is... You're good here, you're bad here. Everybody has it, for one reason. So I'll scream to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, bring him already. Bring him already, I can't take this anymore. And the pressure is stronger and stronger. It's not going to get better. Don't think that Trump is coming and changing everything. People think, oh, Trump is going to come, everything will be back to... No, he's not changing anything. Don't even think about that. I don't even think that he has a chance even to win. We're not talking politics right now. I don't think we're even going to get to elections. The point is that we're all suffering some type of burden. It says in the Gemara, if we have a merit, Mashiach is going to come, Keref Ayin, we're going to blink and Mashiach is here. We have to have a merit. And if we don't, Ma'amid ani aleim melech, I'm going to put a king on them. That his decrees are worse than Haman. And I'm going to make them beg for Mashiach to come. So we see it in front of our eyes. Everybody's being crushed now in some way, and nothing's going to change it. Rak Mashiach, only Mashiach. Mashiach is the only solution. Not Trump, not Bibi, no nobody. It's not about politics. It's about the reality. The question is, what am I doing now? Okay, I understood Mashiach is coming right now. And Bemet, what I told you now is not even a fraction of the sources that I found. I put it all in a book. You can get it later. See? You can find all the sources. Not even all the sources, but enough. Okay, so I convinced now Mashiach is coming. Now what? Now you made sense, now I understand, I have a burden, I have problems. Okay, now what? Now what? We only have one way to bring the Geulah. Torah, mitzvot, gilmud chasadim. That's it. It says in the Gemara, the one who wants to get saved by this process, ya'asok b'Torah, will learn Torah. Ya'aseh mitzvot, will do mitzvot, and all day long, gilmud chasadim, acts of charity. That's the only thing is left. Nothing else. If you're not all day long involved in Torah, mitzvot, gilmud chasadim, yate velo yachminei, I don't want to see how it's happening. Don't even get me started how extreme I see the reality. People don't want to listen to it. Just this day, I went out, had something to eat. This guy sits next to me, he tells me, "You're Rabbi Anava?" Told him, yeah. He starts talking to me. He tells me, "Oh, my cousin was in your lecture in Queens last week, the same type of lecture, and you scared him. He wants to move to Israel." I said, "Good, but why are you scaring him?" I just told him the reality. He got scared. That's it. What do you want me to lie to you? Chas v'shalom, a person sick, goes to the doctor. What do you want the doctor to tell you? Listen, the situation is not that great, but don't worry, everything will be okay. No, the doctor tells you, I'm sorry to tell you, this is the disease. Doctor, why are you scaring me? Because that's the truth. So, later on you want, Techev will do questions, you can ask me whatever you want. The reality is that the Mashiach is coming right now. It can happen tonight. The question is, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the Geulah to come? If, Bezrat Hashem, we do tshuva, we take on ourselves a lot of mitzvot, learn Torah, do a lot of acts of kindness, it can happen like that. B'chesed v'rachamim. Right now. V'im lo zechu, amin danim alehem melech ke'aman. I'm going to, if we don't have the merit, we're going to have problems. It's up to us. It's only up to us. And there's no other solution. Don't try to find loopholes anywhere else for any solution of any of your problems. And everybody has problems. Everywhere that I go, everybody comes to me, starts whispering to me, I have a problem. Can you help me? I'm not joking. It's sad. It's very sad that everybody's suffering. It's very unfortunate that nobody can lift up their hand in this room and say, Rabbi, you're wrong. I'm good. It's very unfortunate, but nobody's doing anything. Nobody's taking action. Nobody's saying, okay, enough is enough. Let's get it. Let's bring him. What does it take? To learn Torah? Let's learn Torah. What's the big problem? To daven in a minyan? What's the big problem? To like another Jew? What's the big problem? So what if he looks different? So what if he's Ashkenazi? Who cares? He's another Jew. Who cares where he comes from? How he talks, what he eats, and how he says his bracha. And the reality is that when Mashiach is going to come, everything else is going to, there's not going to be any importance to it. Doesn't matter how many houses you have. It's going to be worthless. Doesn't matter how many degrees you have. It's worthless. Not too long ago, I met somebody. Oh, I have a PhD, I have an MAD, I gave me all these acronyms. I said, wow, what is it going to help you when Mashiach comes? You know to read out of the Torah? The reality is that the world is changing. You don't have to be a genius. You have to look at it with your eyes. Remove chas v'shalom. Remove the Torah for 1 second. You don't have to be a genius to see exactly what's going on in the world. Wars everywhere. Wars everywhere. Terror everywhere. Look at Europe. Europe is kaput. Kaput. And you think it's normal. What you see in the TV is nothing. I was there. It's scary to walk in the streets. Scary to walk in the streets there. It's not what you see on the news. And you think it's not happening here? Oh, it's coming. It's coming to a city near you. Just look at it with your eyes. The FBI says there are 200,000 silent cells of ISIS in America. Open your eyes. Hashem prepared all the scenarios how to bring the Geulah. If it's coming good, no problem. On planes, to Eretz Israel, on clouds. If it's not coming good, Hashem prepared all the options. Enough nutcases in the world to nuke the world. A star hovering over this planet that can crash into this land. People think it's a joke. It's not a joke, it's a real thing. The Zohar is talking about 5 times in the Zohar about the planet of fire that's going to come right before Mashiach is coming. This is planet X. It's not a joke. Hashem prepared all the options. Whatever he wants to do, he pulls it out of his pocket. And the best option is to do tshuva. It's not so young. You can see with your own eyes. You don't have to be a genius. You do not have to be a genius to see where the world is going to. Economies are crashing. Everything is falling down. And then you go out of this door tonight and tomorrow, everything's back to business. Okay, I got to go to my work. Got to pay my mortgage. Got to do this. Have deals. Have that. Now, I'm not telling you to go wild and that's it and put yourself all day long in yeshiva. If you would ask me personally, that's what I would tell you to do. Sell everything you have, pack your bags, go to Eretz Israel and learn Torah all day long. If you ask my personal opinion. And people think I'm nuts. But a couple thousand people don't think I'm nuts because they actually did it. But that's if you want my real, true, honest opinion. Yeah, sell everything that you have, pack your bags, go to Eretz Israel and just learn Torah. But most people, they think I'm completely nuts. So don't do that. But your entire day has to be surrounded with Torah, mitzvot, and gemilut chasadim, acts of charity. If chas v'shalom the Geulah is not coming nice, You know what the Torah tells us? The Torah gives us a promise. Every time we open the Torah, the Ark, you know what we say? ואתם הדבקים בהשם אלוקיכם, חיים כולכם היום. You know what's דבקים? Glued. If you're glued to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, חיים כולכם היום. You'll live. דוד המלך says, יפול מצדך 1,000, ורבבה מימינך, אליך לא ייגש. 1,000 is going to pull on this side, 10,000 on this side. Nothing's going to hit you. I have a friend who got so scared, he packed his bag, moved to New Zealand. Told him, New Zealand? Why New Zealand? Here nothing is going to happen. I told him, if your time to go, a coconut will fall from the tree, hit you on your head, and you're out. New Zealand? The point is that we have a promise from the Torah. ואתם הדבקים בהשם אלוקיכם חיים כולכם היום. You have to make a חשבון with yourself if you are glued to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. How glued you are to the Kadosh Baruch Hu? I don't think I'm glued to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. I don't think I'm in that level. So Baruch Hashem, I moved myself to Eretz Yisrael already 9 months ago. Because I don't feel safe that I'm glued to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. The point of the night is very, very simple. I did not travel all the way from Eretz Yisrael for 2.5 weeks to leave my kids and my wife by themselves to come and tell you jokes or to come and give you sources. I could sell you the book through the internet. The point of tonight is very simple. It's how you're leaving this door. And if you're leaving this door tonight and everything is the same, then you wasted an hour of your time. And you had some good Italian food, and that's it. You wasted your time. But if you leave this door tonight and you're saying, wait a minute, Mashiach is coming. This is exciting. Can you imagine? We've been waiting 5,776 years. We've been waiting. It's coming now. It's like waiting for a baby. Every time my wife is pregnant, it's exciting. Wow, oh, another one is coming. Every day we're counting the days. In 9 months, it's already super exciting. I don't know why people are not excited that Mashiach is coming. You have the opportunity to look this door tonight and say, wait a minute, maybe I'm part of the redemption. You know what people think? People think it's all like, by mistake. You know why you came here tonight? Not because you got an email, not because you saw a flyer. You came here tonight because you were invited by the heavenly court. There was a invitation list. And they made an invitation. It says, he's coming. He's coming, he's coming. You know how many people wanted to come tonight and couldn't come tonight? They couldn't find a ride, couldn't find a babysitter. They weren't invited. You were invited. You know, I lived in this country now for 17 years. Baruch Hashem, I left. I was not able to figure out one thing in this country. Every time there's a holiday, they do a sale. I don't understand the logic. 4th of July, 90% off. Memorial Day, shop all you can. Why? Why can't you give me the discount on October 27th? Oh, today is an auspicious time. Somebody died 500 years ago, so we want you to spend money. An auspicious time. Black Friday. You missed the opportunity, that's it. Back to the original price. The Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us also auspicious times. It's called Et Ratzon. This is an auspicious time. The Kadosh Baruch Hu invited each and every one of you. You were on the list. I'm not joking. I'm not making a joke here. This is a serious thing. You were on the list. You were invited to come here, each and every one of you. Why? To hear what I have to say, to make a decision, to take a coupon. Here, tonight's the opportunity. How are you leaving this dark tonight? Are you going to sleep after this night, or are you saying, wait a minute, maybe I can bring the gula? People tell me, no, it's up to you, the rabbis. You have to do it. No. What's the difference between me and you? I'm a Jew, you're a Jew. That's it. There's no difference. My mitzvot is exactly like your mitzvot. My tefillin is not better than yours. I have to keep Shabbat, you have to keep Shabbat. There's no difference. And people say, oh, no, the big rabbis, they bring the redemption. No, it's each and every Jew that does it. Your mitzvot are powerful. You showing up into the minyan, you cannot even imagine how powerful it is. If you would look in the mirror in the morning and say, hey, I'm valuable. How they call it in the NBA, the MVP? I'm an MVP. My mitzvah is worth it. Maybe you can bring the gula. Maybe your mitzvah, I don't know.
VIP.
Not VIP, MVP, most valuable player. We're all most valuable players. Just people who don't think that they are. People don't understand how powerful their mitzvot are. So the reason I traveled across the world is to come and tell you, listen, the Geulah is coming. You know, when Moshe Rabbeinu came to Mitzrayim, nobody believed him. Everybody was like, no, old man, go away. Very few people believed him, and they got their act together. 20% only. 80% did not leave Mitzrayim. 80% stayed behind. They did not believe him. The Geulah is coming. Now what are you doing? You have the opportunity to leave this door tonight and to make a huge change in your life, a huge change in your family's life, and a huge change in the entire generation, the entire world. Every mitzvah is a diamond. Every little act. Don't think that you're like, people tell me I'm not so observant, so what's the point? It has nothing to do with it. It's not what you don't do, it's what you do. You can't do 100%, do 20%, do 30, 40, 60, doesn't matter. Don't give yourself discounts and saying I'm not observant. My mitzvahs are not worth it. People look at me and, no, you'll do it. No, we need everybody. We need everybody. Torah, mitzvot v'gimilut chasadim, charity. Charity is not only writing a check. It's very nice to write a check. Charity is to help your neighbor and to help another person that really needs it. When you know what's real charity? When somebody asks you to help him and you really don't feel like it. That's the real charity. Now a lot of people tell me, listen, I'm busy all day long. I can't. No problem. So partner with whoever can. There's a famous partnership in the Torah between Zvulun and Issachar. Issachar sat and studied Torah all day long. Zvulun said, I'm going to do business. Let's share 50-50. You give me 50% of your Torah, I give you 50% of the money. You can't do it with your mouth, you do it with your money. You partner with somebody. The point is very, very simple. That this is all real. Mashiach is coming. It all depends how you're preparing for it, what you're going to do for it, and if you're going to be part of it. I mean, not that I'm coming to say something negative, but you have to have a merit to see the redemption. To see it with your eyes. Can you imagine what it is to see it with your eyes? People are going to faint seeing Bet HaMikdash coming down from the sky. It's not a joke. What we're going to see is nothing compared to what we saw in Mitzrayim. That's why we're starting to have all this technology to start to understand that there's something advanced. But Mashiach is going to come, the technology we have now is a joke compared to what we're going to have. That's why you see in the last 10 years, technology is like becoming unbelievable to prepare us so we're not going to faint when we see these miracles. Are you part of the Geulah? You have to ask yourself this question when you wake up in the morning. Am I going to see it with my eyes? You know what a merit it is? You know when Mashiach comes, Moshe Rabbeinu is coming with him. Moshe Rabbeinu. Can you imagine meeting Moshe? I cannot even fathom looking at Moshe Rabbeinu. I cannot understand that. Standing in front of the Bet HaMikdash and seeing it all happening. I can't understand. People don't understand. People think it's a fantasy. It's not. It's a real thing. Get it in your hands. It's happening. So B'ezrat Hashem, you leave this door tonight and you're saying, that's it. I'm part of it. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to take all my time, all my might, all my energy, my money, my house. I don't care. My car. And I'm making a change. And the reality is that you can. It's very easy. You don't look at me and saying, oh, this is fanatic. There's a reason why I'm fanatic, but you don't have to look at me and saying, oh, I don't want to be that. You don't have to be that. You have to be you. You have to be a God-fearing Jew. B'ezrat Hashem, I'm going to wish you to have an unbelievable koach, power to change your mind, to change your heart. That when you leave this door tonight, you have a complete change in your heart, complete change in your mind. And if you really in your mind decide Hashem is going to bless you, that everything that you need is going to happen. Everything that you want is coming only because Mashiach is coming. And I'll give you a great bracha that when you leave this door tonight, your life is going to change. Don't walk out of this door tonight and saying, okay, I had good pizza and I'm going home now. Give us a good show, this clown with a beard. Some good jokes. No, this is serious. I'm telling you some jokes just so you to understand, to laugh a little bit, but this is serious things.